Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Reka and today we are going to make this cute little breakfast scene with a cracked egg and some toast and a salt shaker. Before we start, I'd just like to ask you to hit like and subscribe to help supporting my channel, and let's jump right into it. So I opened the Blender, I'm in Blender 5, and you either click on General here or you just click away into the 3D viewport and the general 3D scene will greet you. So you have a light, you have a camera, and you have the default cube. Here are my screencast keys, so you see what I'm pressing. And first of all, I'm going to move my mouse here until this crosshair appears. Click. Pull it down and join these two areas because I don't need my timeline. I won't be animating. And then I'll click on my light and holding down Shift, click on my camera, press M to move to collection, hit new collection, call it cam and light, and just click on create. And now here in your outliner, you can see there's a cam and light folder. All you need to do is hide it from the viewport. So click on this eye icon and that will hide them for you. Now I'll click on the default cube and I'll press X and delete it because I don't need it. Go to front view with one on your numpad, press Shift A to add mesh and add the UV sphere. Now if you press N, you can see that this UV sphere is 2 meters in each direction. This is going to be an egg, so 2 meters is very, very big for an egg. So I'll press S to scale and scale it down to about 0.08. That's an 8 centimeters egg. And what I want for the scale to be uniform, it is uniform at the moment, but if I start changing the size of it any direction, this won't be uniform. So what I'll do is press Ctrl A and apply the scale, and that will jump back to 111. Press N to make this panel disappear. You can bring it back with N as well. I zoom in a little bit and tab into edit mode. You can also change it up here. Now we are in vertex mode. You can see the vertices. One is the shortcut for vertex mode. This one is edge mode, where you can select and edit the edges. Shortcut for it is 2. And then the last one is face mode, where you can select the faces of an object, and the shortcut for it is 3. This one is called X-ray mode, where you can select things on the back, not just to the front as well. So for example, if I box select these faces, it will select it at the back as well. And I'm going to go to front view with one of my numpad. In X-ray mode, I'm going to select these faces, come here and turn on proportional editing. That means that whatever I do to those faces, for example, if I press G, this circle appears, which you can change the size with the wheel of your mouse. And whatever is inside of this circle, called circle of influence, will be affected by the movement. So if I press Z to move it on the Z axis and start moving it up, then it will affect the rest of them inside of the circle as well. I think I'm just going to select these faces on the top and press G and Z and let's just move them up to give it a nice egg shape. And then select these bottom faces and press G and Z and move them down. And I think that's a really good egg shape. We can also press S to scale it up just a little bit, like that. Okay, let's come out of X-ray mode. And I think I'm going to go to edge mode with 2. Holding down Alt, I'll click on one of these edges to select the whole edge loop and just press S to scale it down a little bit because I think it was just a little bit too big. Okay, now that's great. A to select everything, and I'm going to duplicate this egg. So Shift D to duplicate it, and I'll just click. I don't want to do anything with the duplicate, but I want to make sure that is selected. And now I'll press P for separating it, and I'll separate it by selection. So here in the outliner, you can see now I have 2 spheres, not just one. I tab into object mode, and the one I just created, sphere 001, I'm going to hide it with this eye icon. And then I'll click on the original sphere and tab back into edit mode. And now I'm going to use my knife tool to cut into the shape all around it. So for the knife tool, let's zoom in. I'll press K, and you want to start in one of these corners, or even here maybe. And then click to start your cut. Move it where you want it to go, and then click again. It usually sticks to vertices and edges. And then you can just go around, start making these cuts. When you get to the end, just press Enter. And with the middle mouse button, just move around your scene. Press K for the knife tool again and start where you left off. And just start cutting again. Enter again when you get to the end. Move your mouse with the middle mouse button and then K again. Start where you left off and start cutting. Make it random like that. Enter again. I'll zoom in a little bit and then just start cutting again and finish it off where I started and enter to confirm it. Now, let's go to X-ray mode, 3 to go to face mode, and what you want is to box select everything up to this point. And now holding down Shift, these as well. I'll come out of X-ray mode now, and holding down Shift, I'll just select all of these faces where I made the cuts, and I'll just speed this up. And now, with all of these faces selected, I press X to delete faces. And this is going to be my eggshell. I think I'm just going to go back to X-ray mode, select these faces, and with proportional editing still on, I'll press G and Z, move it down just a little bit to make it a little bit longer like that, and maybe S to scale like that. Right. So now, if you tap back to object mode and come out of X-ray mode, you have this eggshell almost ready. First of all, let's set our origin to the geometry. So right click, set origin, origin to geometry. And now go to your modifiers, add modifier, generate, solidify. Now this is a little bit too much. So I'm going to set the thickness to 0.00, let's say 2, and that's much better. That's still, I think, a little bit too thick. So maybe try 0.001, and that's perfect. And now I right click, shade, auto smooth. And that's my eggshell, my cracked eggshell right there. It is a little bit funky, but I don't want to add a subdivision surface modifier because if I do so, don't follow along, but if I press Ctrl 3, then you can see that this top is becoming a little bit wavy, and that's not really what I want. So I'll press Ctrl Z to remove my subdivision surface modifier. Let's go to front view with one on your numpad. Now I think I'm going to just press S to scale on the Z, just to scale it up a little bit, make it a little bit taller. And what we'll do is here, I'm going to name this object shell. So double click on the name and just name it shell. And then I bring my other sphere back. And let's name it egg white. Zoom in a little bit and just press S to scale, Shift Z, and I'll make it just a little bit smaller so it doesn't overlap with the eggshell. So that's great. Now let's tab into edit mode, turn on X-ray, and still in face mode, box select all of these top faces like that. Press X and delete faces. And then press 2 to go to edge mode, and holding down Alt, select this whole edge loop by clicking on one of the edges. And then you want to go to here to the face menu and click on grid fill to fill it out. And I'll go to top view and come out of X-ray mode. Press 1 to go to vertex mode, and then just start selecting some random vertices from the top. I could go to random select, but I only want to select the ones on the top. I don't want to select anything else on the sides. And now let's go to front view, press G and Z, and just make the circle of influence very small like that, and lift it up just a little bit. So it's a little bit random like that. Maybe this one, G and Z as well. This one we can bring it down, G and Z, and maybe this one as well. Okay, that's great. Let's tap back into object mode. Press Ctrl 3 and that will add the subdivision surface modifier and set the render level to 3 as well. And then right click, shade smooth. So that's my egg white right there. And 7 on your numpad to go to top view. Shift A to add mesh and then you want to add a UV sphere. Press S to scale it down. Oh, I ran out of the line. Make it about this big. Go to front view. Press S to scale on the Z and make it nice and flat like this. And then G and Z to lift it up here. Let's have a look. I think it can be a little bit smaller even. So let's make it about this big. And then just G and Z to bring it up a little bit like that. And then right click, shade smooth. And this one is going to be my egg yolk. I think to my egg yolk, I'll press Ctrl 3 and add the subdivision surface modifier to make it nice and smooth, and then just set the render level to 3. I'm going to go to front view just for a second, and I think maybe with this egg yolk, I'm going to press S to scale on the Z and then just make it a little bit more rounded like that, and just G and Z. Let's have a look. That's much, much better. And then here, I'll name it yolk. Now, this part, you don't have to follow along. I like to add a cute little face to my objects, so that's what I'm going to do. Shift right click somewhere around here to move my 3D cursor there. Press Shift A to add mesh, and I'll add another UV sphere. Press S to scale it down nice and small. Oh, I ran out of line again, so S to scale it further down to about this size. 7 on my numpad to go to top view and press S to scale on the Y to make it nice and flat like that. And then just R to rotate it so it lines up with the eggshell, and G and Y to move it backwards. Rotate it just a little bit more. And then 3 on my numpad to go to side view and just press R to rotate it from this direction as well. Let's have a look. And that looks great. Let's go back to front view with 1 on your numpad. Right click, shade smooth. And then what I'll do is I'll duplicate this object. So Shift D to duplicate it. And then straight away press S to scale it down and make it nice and small. Press G and Z and move it somewhere here. And then just go to side view with 3 on your numpad, press R to rotate it, and then G and Y to move it out. Let's just zoom in a little bit more just to see. R to rotate, G and Y, somewhere around there. And then let's have a look from top view as well. I think that works fine. And then what I'll do, I think I'm going to add the subdivision surface modifier to this. So Ctrl 3 just to make it smoother, and then G and Y because I put it in there too much. So bring it out just a little bit, holding down Shift for smaller increments, and then this one as well, G and Y. And that's much better. Now, click on the big part of the eye, go to your modifiers, and first of all set the render level to 3, and then add the modifier generate, and you want to add a mirror. Now it's mirroring on itself, so what we need is go to this eyedropper tool, click on it and bring it to the eggshell and click. And now this way it will mirror it onto the other side of the eggshell. Click on the pupil and then shift click on the big part of the eye. So make sure that the big part is your active object. Press Ctrl L, copy modifiers. And I think I'm just going to bring it out just a little bit. So G and Y, and then holding down Shift for smaller increments, I'll just pull it outwards a little bit. And now it looks perfect. Great. Now I'll move my 3D cursor somewhere around here. So Shift right click in between the eyes. Press Shift A to add mesh, and I'll add the plane. Press S to scale and scale it down until it's very small, to around this size. Go to side view and press S to scale on the Y, make it nice and thin like that. Let's go back to front view, Ctrl A to apply the scale, and I'll move my 3D cursor away so you can see what I'm doing. Let's tab into edit mode, zoom in a little bit more, press Ctrl R, and with the wheel of your mouse, make about 7 or 9 loop cuts and then double click to confirm the number and the position of it. 2 to go to edge mode, and with the proportional editing still on, select the middle edge and press G and Z and pull it up. Here we go. So that's my little sad-faced egg because he's going to get eaten. Let's step back into object mode. And what I'll do, because my origin point stayed there because I made the change in edit mode, I'll right click, set origin to geometry. So that will pop it back where it should be. And then I'll go to my modifiers, add modifier, generate, solidify. And because it's a very small object, we need to change the thickness. But first of all, I'll add the subdivision surface modifier. So Ctrl 3 and then right click, shade smooth, and change the render level to 3. And now going back to my solidify modifier, I'll change the thickness to 0.00, let's say try 5. That's still a little bit too thick, so 0.002, and that's much better. Let's go to side view and just press G and Y to bring it in and just R to rotate it. Maybe just G and Y a little bit more. And here we go. That's the little face for my egg. Now the next thing to do is I'm going to make a little egg cup. But first of all, I box select everything, press M to move to new collection and call it egg, and just click on create. Zoom out a little bit and then just press G and Z and move it up to somewhere around here. And then Shift S and I'll move cursor to world origin, and that will snap my 3D cursor right back at the center of the world. Press Shift A to add mesh, and you want to add the plane. You don't need to do anything with it in object mode. Let's tab into edit mode straight away. Press M to merge, and you want to merge it at center. And that merged all of the vertices in my plane into one. So now I have one vertex right there in the scene. Press 1 to go to vertex mode and just box select it just in case if it's not selected. Let's zoom in a little bit. And what we'll do, we will extrude this little vertex. So E to extrude on the X, bring it out to somewhere around here, and then E to extrude further on, and you want to sort of draw this little egg cup shape. Go up to around here and then E to extrude on the X, bring it to the side of the egg, and then just keep extruding, make sure to follow the shape of the egg. And the last one, make sure it lines up with the first one. I think I'm just going to select these 3 vertices and press G and X just to move it outwards a little bit. And these ones, I box select them and press G and Z to move them up. Just tidy up the shape a little bit. That looks much better. Okay, and what I want to do is to add some supporting vertices. So I'll press Ctrl R for a loop cut here, make it 2 with the wheel of my mouse, select one of them and just press GG and slide it almost all the way to the one on the left, and then do the same with this. I'll switch off proportional editing. So select this one, GG, and slide it out almost all the way to the other one. So make sure it doesn't overlap. And then you want to do some here as well. So Ctrl R and then just GG to slide it there, and Ctrl R here as well and GG to slide it there. And let's do one here as well. So Ctrl R and just GG to move it almost all the way down. Now let's tab into object mode and let's go to front view with one on your numpad. And what we want is to add a screw modifier. So go to your modifiers, add modifier, screw, and that fills out your cup. So it looks great, but I am going to add the subdivision surface modifier as well. So Ctrl 3 and then set the render level to 3 and also right click shade smooth. So that's great. And I think maybe just go back to edit mode for a second and just box select these vertices, all of them, and press G and X and just move it inwards a little bit like that. That's much better. Okay. So that's my egg cup done. And I'm just going to rename it cup and press M, and I'll move it into the egg collection. Let's go back to front view with one on your numpad. And I think I'm going to do the base now. So I'll select my egg and the cup, press G and Z and move it somewhere around here. Press Shift A to add, mesh, and I'll add a cylinder. Here I'll change the vertices to 12 and then just press S to scale it down. S to scale on the Z, make it nice and thin, and S to scale Shift Z to make it just a little bit bigger like that, because I'll be adding some other stuff to it. And then G and Z to move it up here. Control 3 to add a subdivision surface modifier. Make sure that the render level is set to 3. Tab into edit mode, press Control R here, click once and then move it up almost all the way like that. And then let's do another one. Control R here, one click and move it almost all the way down like that. Tab back into object mode and then right click, shade smooth. And this is just a little simple plate that I added to my scene, and then press Shift A to add mesh plane. Let's go to top view, zoom out a little bit. I think that size is actually perfect. And press G and Y and just move it somewhere around here so my origin point is behind my egg. Tab into edit mode, press Ctrl R and you want to do a loop cut here right in the middle and then double click to confirm it. 2 to go to edge mode and you want to select this edge. 3 to go to side view and then press G and move this edge up to a 90 degree like that. Maybe you can bring it down a little bit as well. So that's great. And then you want to select this edge that we just made. Press Ctrl B to bevel it. And with the wheel of your mouse, add some extra edges to it like that. Now tap back into object mode and just right click, shade smooth. So this is going to be my background, floor and plate for my scene. I might scale this up a little bit more. So S to scale, Shift Z to exclude the x-axis and just make it a little bit bigger like that. Right, the next thing to do is to make some toast with some butter on the top. So 7 on your numpad to go to top view. And I'm going to move my 3D cursor somewhere here. So Shift right click, move my 3D cursor there. Press Shift A to add mesh and I'll add a cube. Press S to scale it down and I want to make it about this big. Let's go to front view and press S to scale on the Z to make it nice and thin like that. G and Z to move it up just a little bit. Might be still a little bit too big, so I'll press S to scale a little bit further more. And then Control A to apply the scale and tab into edit mode. I'm going to isolate my object with the slash key on my numpad and go back to top view. 3 to go to face mode and I'm going to turn on my X-ray. Select this face on the bottom and shift select the top face. I try to stay in perspective view so you can see what I'm doing. Press I to inset it like that and I to inset it again like that. And then holding down Alt, I'll click in this middle edge there. That will select this whole face loop for me. Press E to extrude and I'll extrude it downwards just a little bit like that. And then go to the bottom and do the same with this one. So Alt click to select the whole face loop, E to extrude and just move it up a little bit like that. So that looks great. Now I'll do 2 loop cuts here horizontally. Double click to confirm them. Alt select the top one and press GG to move it up to around there. And then Alt click on one of the edges to select the whole edge loop. Press GG and move it almost all the way down here. So that's great. Let's go back to top view. I'll minimize this window. Press Ctrl R to do a loop cut here. Let's make it 3 loop cuts. Double click to confirm them. Alt click on this middle one, turn on my proportional editing and press S to scale it down and just move it inwards just a little bit like that. And then let's do the same here. So Ctrl R, make it 3 with the wheel of your mouse and then double click to confirm. Alt click on the middle, press S and scale it down slightly like that. So that's great. Let's tab into object mode and I'll press Ctrl 3 to add a subdivision surface modifier and change the render level to 3. Come out of X-ray mode so you can see it and then just right click, shade smooth. Now let's tab back to edit mode and press 3 to go to face mode. And then I just holding down shift, I'll select all of these top faces, press shift D to duplicate it, click, and then P to separate by selection. Let's tab into object mode. Click on this one, the one we just created, so cube 001, and I'm going to add the solidify modifier. So add modifier, generate, solidify. Now it's very thick. Let's go to front view. I'll just press G and Z to bring it up. But what I want is to make it a little bit thinner. So set the thickness to 0.005. That's still a little bit thick, so 0.003. That's perfect. And I'll press S to scale it down slightly and G and Z to bring it down like that. And what I'll do is here where these dots are, I'll grab my solidify modifier and move it above my subdivision surface modifier. And now we can even change the thickness a little bit if we wanted to. So 0.005, and that's perfect. And then just G and Z to move it up. I think I might even change it to 0.007 and then G and Z like that. Let's go back to top view. I'll tab into edit mode, 1 to go to vertex mode, and I'll just make this shape a little bit more random. So G, move this one, make my circle of influence a little bit smaller. This one, G, let's move it that way. This one, just G, and then maybe all of these, press G, move it here like that. So that's my toast with some butter on it. In object mode, select the toast and I'll just add a supporting loop, I think. So tab back into edit mode with the toast selected. And here, press Ctrl R right there. One click and then bring it down a little bit like that. So it doesn't overlap, but almost touching with the edge loop below it. And then just click again to confirm it. So that's great. Now let's tab back into object mode. And what I'll do, I'll select my whole toast and press Shift D to duplicate it and bring the other one here right next to it. And then box select everything, press M and move it to new collection, call it toast. Press the slash key on your numpad to come out of isolation mode. So the last thing I want to add is just a little salt shaker. So let's press 7 on your numpad to go to top view. Shift right click next to the toast, press Shift A to add mesh, and you want to add a cube. Press S to scale it down to about this size. Let's go to front view and just press G and Z and move it up to around here and press Ctrl A to apply the scale. Straight away, let's tab into edit mode and I'll press slash on my numpad to go to isolation mode. Zoom out just a little bit, turn on X-ray, and I'm going to turn off my proportional editing. Box select these top vertices, press G and Z and move it down a little bit. And then these ones, G and Z and move it up a little bit like that. I'll do 2 loop cuts here. So Ctrl R and the wheel of my mouse, I make it 2 loop cuts and double click to confirm them. Alt click on this one and press GG to move it up here, and then alt click on this one and press GG to move it down here. And what I'll do, I'll select these top and shift select these bottom vertices, go to edge mode, press Ctrl B and bevel it like that, and then just add some extra edges with the wheel of my mouse like that. Now let's go to face mode and select this bottom face. Go back to front view with 1 on your numpad. And you want to press E to extrude, bring it down just a little bit, and then S to scale it up like that. E to extrude again, S to scale it up, E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude, S to scale. And let's do one more, E to extrude, S to scale. Let me just come out of isolation mode just to see for a second. I might just do one more, E to extrude, downwards, S to scale it up like that. And I'll do a loop cut down at the bottom, Control R, and I bring it almost all the way down. And then I'll box select those bottom edges and press Control B and just bevel it a little bit like that, so it doesn't overlap with the loop cut I just made. Now let's step back into object mode. I'll isolate it again. So this is how it looks right now. Control 3 to add the subdivision surface modifier, and then right click shade smooth. Make sure that the render level is on 3, and then let's step back into edit mode. And I'm going to press Control R to do a loop cut here and move it outwards a little bit like that, so it doesn't overlap. And then I'll do one here as well. Control R and pull it up like that. That looks good. Now let's go to the top. I'll tap back into object mode, and what I'll do is I'll go to my modifier to this drop down menu and apply it. Now when I tap back into edit mode, you can see it's a much more complicated shape, but that's okay. Let's go to top view. I'll press 3 to go to face mode, and what I'll do is I'll select these 4 faces, press I to inset them, and inset it until they are very, very small like that. And then what I'll do is press E to extrude and bring them down. It doesn't matter how deep, it's fine as long as they look like little holes. And then I'll tap back into object mode, and that's fine. And we can even add another subdivision surface modifier. So Control 3, and then just set the render level to 3. And that's my little salt shaker. I'll come out of isolation mode, and that looks pretty good. I might just tap back into edit mode for a second, turn on my X-ray, select these bottom faces and turn on my proportional editing, and just press S to scale it down and just add it a little bit of a funny shape like that. Let's step back to object mode, and that looks even better. I like it a lot. So now we have all the objects for our scene. I'm going to organize my scene a little bit. So we have this egg, the toast, and the salt shaker. Let's go to front view. I'll zoom out a little bit, grab my salt shaker and press G to move it somewhere around here. Box select one of my toasts and then just shift and click to deselect my background. Press G and move it here. And then let's do the same with the other toast. I might just click on this background for a second and press H to hide it. Select my other toast and press G and move it somewhere around here. And I press G to move my toast here. Let's go to side view, zoom in a little bit. G and Z to move it there, and press R to rotate it and just move it like that. Select the other toast, press G and move it somewhere around here. Go back to top view and I will press R to rotate it so it's like this, and maybe just G and move it here like that. Now I'm going to find my egg collection, right click on it and select objects, press G and move it somewhere around here, and press R to rotate it a little bit. And then my salt shaker, press G and maybe move it somewhere around here. Let's go back to front view. Let's have a look. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to set my camera view. So click on this camera and lock it with this tab. And now you can move your camera around the scene. And I might just move my salt shaker a little bit. So G and Y to move it a little bit closer to me, and then G and X to move it here. So that looks pretty good. I think I'll just scale it down. So S to scale it down. 1 to go to front view, and then just press G and Z to move it on the top of my plate. Alt H to bring my background back. Select it and press R and Z and rotate it so it sort of aligns with my scene. Now that our scene is all set up, we can add some colors to it. I think I'm just going to select my plate for a second, press G and X and just move it a little bit, and that's much better. So to add some colors, we are going to go to the shading workspace. So click here. Let's optimize this window. So I'll move my mouse here till the crosshair appears, pull it towards the left and just let it go when join areas appear. And I'll do the same here as well. So now I have my 3D viewport and my shader editor. Here I'm going to go to rendered view. So click on that, which will make your scene really dark because we don't have any light set up at the moment. My render engine is going to be Cycles, but if you want to use Eevee, just make sure that ray tracing is turned on. But I will be using Cycles and I will be using my GPU, and I'll turn on my denoise and set my time limit to 2 seconds so it's not slow. Right, let's start with setting up our HDRI. From this drop-down menu, go to the world shader. I just press G on this one and move it here. Press Shift A, texture, and I'll add an environment texture. When you plug it in color to color, it's going to turn pink. So we need to add an HDRI image, which I have downloaded from polyhaven.com. And I went with this Christmas Photo Studio 05. So now if I zoom out, you can see it in the background, but we won't be seeing it because we already set up our background. So that's great. Let's jump back to the object shader, and I have my background selected, so I'm going to start with that one. Click on this new button to add the new material and call it background. And here we edit a color. So for my prototype, I already have my colors chosen with color codes. So click on this and you can go around trying to choose whatever color you fancy really. This is the color code I have used. So if you want to copy it, it's here for you. And then just pull up the roughness all the way to 1. Then click on the plate. Let's edit a new material, call it plate. And for the base color, again, I already have a color code. This is the color I used. So here you go. Pause the video if you want to copy it and just pull up the roughness all the way to 1. Let's click on the salt shaker, edit a new material, call it salt shaker, go to the base color, and this is my color code. So this is the color I have used. And for the salt shaker, I pull down the roughness just a little bit to around 0.2, 0.3, somewhere between. Let's click on the egg cup, edit a new material, call it egg cup or cup, whatever you want to call it really. Edit a base color. This is the color code I used, so this bluish color, and I pull down the roughness to about 0.3 and 4. I just zoom in a little bit. Let's click on the eyes, the big parts, edit a new material, call it eye black, edit a base color, and with this slider, pull it all the way, almost all the way down to black. Doesn't actually need to be black. And pull up the roughness all the way to 1. And now click on those small pupils, call it eye white. And then on that one, you can bring down the roughness so it's a little bit shiny. And then select the mouth. And from this drop-down menu here, edit the eye black material. Click on the shell, edit a new material, call it egg shell. And for the base color, obviously, I've chosen an eggshell color, something like that. And that pulled up the roughness all the way to 1. Now let's click on the egg white, edit a new material, call it egg white. And I went towards the yellows just a little bit, so it's not completely white, you can see there. And I left the roughness on 0.5. And then for the egg yolk, let's edit a new material, call it yolk. And for the base color, I went with a really saturated yellow color and pulled down the roughness to about 0.15. So it's nice and shiny. Now, for the butter, let's edit a new material, call it butter. And I went with this creamy yellowish color and pulled down the roughness to about 0.17. And then you click on the other butter and then shift click on the one that's already colored. Press Ctrl L, link materials. Last thing to color is the toast. So toast 1, I will call this one. And toast 1, I added like a bread color, tried to get as close to bread color as I could and pulled up the roughness all the way to 1. And again, I clicked on the other one, shift click on the colored one, Ctrl L, link materials. But now I'm going to add a slot to color the crust. So go to your slot, add the new slot, edit a new material called crust. And for the crust, I added a darker brown material like that, pulled up the roughness all the way. And here, let's tab into edit mode, zoom in, 3 to go to face mode, and I'm going to just select this face loop that goes around like that, and then press Ctrl+ to add to my selection, and I'll press it 4 times. And now go back to my slots, click on the crust and assign it like that. And then tab back into object mode. Click on the other one, edit new slot here, find the crust to add this material to my second slot, tab into edit mode and isolate my object, alt click to select this face loop, and then Ctrl and the plus sign on my numpad to add to my selection, and I press the plus sign 4 times, go to my slot, assign the crust, and then come out of edit mode into object mode, and then press my / key to come out of isolation mode. So that's it. And then we can go back to the layout workspace, and here you can turn on the rendered view. I think I'll actually zoom in just a little bit like that. So now the very last thing to do is just set up the light, and then we can render our image. So go here to your render properties, go to the color management, and you can set the contrast. I usually stay on AGX, but you can use Filmic or standard, it's up to you. And from AGX, you can try out all these contrast options, but I like to go with the punchy. It's quite contrasty, quite fun. I like it a lot. And then I'm going to press 7 on my numpad to go to top view. Shift right click somewhere around here to move my 3D cursor there. Shift A to add light, and I'll add an area light. Let's go to side view, press R to rotate it, and press G and move it somewhere around here. Rotate it at the scene, and then from top view, press R to rotate it again so it directed onto my scene. Now this light is really big, so I'll press S to scale it down to about this size and scale it on the X as well. And then let's go to the object data properties. I'll go into my camera view. You can click here or you can just press numpad 0, and I'll bring down the power to about 2. That looks so much better. And for the color, I used this color code, so it's a little bit towards the reds. Maybe let's just make it a little bit lighter, something like that. And I'll change the spread to 90 degrees. So I think it's a little bit too strong. So with the exposure, I'm going to just bring it down to about minus 0.9 or minus 1. That looks good. And then let's go back to top view, press Shift D to duplicate this light, move it somewhere around here, R to rotate it at your scene, maybe just move it here. Let's go back to camera view to see. This one, I think I'm going to set it to maybe 3, and I'll change it into a disc light. Maybe 2.3, that's even better. Let's change the color to maybe towards around the yellows. That's quite good. I think I'm going to bring down the power maybe to about 1.7. That's better. And then 7 to go to top view once more. Shift D to duplicate this first light, or whichever you want to duplicate really. Move it somewhere here. R to rotate it. And I'll press S to scale on the X to make it nice and big. And just G and X and R, Z. So it's rotated towards my X. This one, let's set it to 5. And the color, let's add it like a bluish or maybe purplish color, something like that. We can turn it into a disc light as well. And I think I might just try 7 for the strength. And the exposure, I might just bring it to minus 0.7. Might be a little bit too strong. Let's try it with 5 again, or even 4. G and Z to maybe bring it down a little bit, and then just R to rotate it towards the scene like that. I mean, at this moment, it's just your preference, whatever you like, however you want to set up your lights. I might just do a duplicate of this light. So Shift D, bring it here, R to rotate it, And as to scale it down, just make sure it doesn't go through the background. Let's have a look. Press 0 on my numpad to go back to camera view. This one, I might just set it towards the purples, like that. Change the spread to 45 degrees and maybe change the power to 5.5. So that looks pretty good. I like how the butter is shiny. This light I might just rotate on the Z, bring it a little bit closer to my scene. And then let's have a look. That looks pretty good. And now the last thing to do is go to your render tab or press F12 and render the image. So that looks great. And then just go to your image, save, call it final render and save as image. So that's it for this tutorial. If you found it useful, again, hit like and subscribe to support my channel, and I will see you in the next tutorial.